Hi, my name is Terry Heptich, one of the principal partners with HOS Financial. We own the rent-own product known as Homeowner Soon, which has been on the market for a number of years. And I've been asked by one of our most valued partners, Marlando Bailey, to create a short presentation to help you perhaps better understand rent-own so that you can make an informed decision as to whether or not rent-own can work for you. So thank you for taking a few moments to view our presentation. Excuse me. The agenda. Who are Marlando Bailey and HOS Financial? How does rent to own work? Who can benefit from rent to own? What are the associated costs with a rent to own program? And we'll talk a little bit about our path to home ownership platform and some frequently asked questions at the end. So who is Marlando Bailey? He's a good looking guy right on your screen right now. I've known Marlando for a number of years and can say for sure that he's one of the most caring and determined mortgage professionals in the industry. And, it's not hard to understand why, Marlando wins awards like this, Masters Club in 2020, presented to Marlando for high achievement. But it's more important what people say about Marlando. And here's a few things that people say. Marlando possesses a wealth of knowledge in the mortgage industry. Thank you, Marlando, for your exceptional service and going above and beyond for my family. And these types of comments lead to reviews on Google. And Marlando currently has a 4.9 rating out of 5 on Google, which is exceptional. So you can be very confident when you're dealing with Marlando Bailey that you're dealing with somebody who has a high level of integrity and a high level of knowledge and is a very good resource for anything related to financing. Marlando is excellent to deal with. HOS Financial, we've been on the market since 2005. And over that time, we have helped, right now, I believe we're approaching 1,300 families successfully achieve home ownership using rent to own. When traditional models weren't available to them, they looked at rent to own as an option, and we were able to successfully help them achieve a mortgage in the future and buy the property. And Marlando is an expert in in rent to own, and anything that he talks to you about regarding rent to own, you can rely on for sure. And if you ever need any support and Marlando is away on vacation or just not available, HOS Financial is always available to support you. Again, Marlando is one of our most valued partners in the rent to own space. So let's talk a little bit about rent to own, the process. It starts with an application, and this is where we determine affordability. When you talk about rent to own, one of the most important things is that any family that we put a program together, we have to make sure it's affordable for them and that they can still enjoy life outside of paying their payment in their rent to own program. And if you're looking at affordability, typically the maximum purchase price is set at 5 times total family income. Simply, if you make $100,000 total family income, your target purchase price will be around $500,000. And once we determine affordability is present for the purchase price target for the family, we then turn to the exit strategy. And can we remove the barriers that stop you from getting traditional financing and allow you to buy the house at the end of the term? Typical rent to own terms run 2 to 5 years. So we look at what are the challenges in your financial profile and can we improve them to bank standards by the end of the rent to own term? And if we have affordability and we have an exit strategy, we have something to work with and are likely be able to help you on a path to home ownership. Then we look at the quote. So once we determine affordability, we know an exit strategy is present, we'll offer you a quote, which basically outlines the financial details of a program that we're proposing for you and your family based on your target purchase price. Once you agree that the quote is comfortable and you'd like to move forward, we'll ask you for some documents and just tidy up a few things on the file. And then we'll start to match you with an investor. And once the investor is identified, you'll be working with the investor and the realtor on the file. If your file came to us through Marlando, it's very likely you're already working with a realtor, and we honor those relationships and are quite happy to continue to work with the realtor on the file. Should you not have a realtor, we have a team of realtors that have worked with us for years and would be happy to introduce you to a realtor if that was needed. So we determine affordability, we put together an exit strategy. If all that works, you get matched with an investor, and then you start the property search. Once the home is identified and an offer has been placed on the home, then we move to the legal contracts. And this is where we take all the financial information and other pertinent details about your rent-to-own program and put them in legal documents. And then we take those legal documents, give them to you, and ask you to go and visit your lawyer to get independent legal advice. Marlando and HOS Financial are educators about rent to own, but when it comes down to the legal interpretation of contracts, we ask your lawyer to do that on your behalf, and we call that independent legal advice. Once that's good, the inspection is done on the house and everything looks great, then we can talk about removing the offer on the home. This is where the investor goes firm on the offer to buy the house, which you will move into as a tenant and occupy, with an option to buy the house in the future. And all terms related to your rent-to-own program will be agreed to and signed before we start. So there's no changes in the financial terms of your program. Once we start the program, everything is locked in before we start. So once the offer has gone firm, then we wait for moving day, and basically we ask you to get ready, make sure you have a moving truck, all that kind of stuff. Just plan for the big day to move into what will be your home in the future. When we look at some more details, we get a little more detail. You might be asking, well, what is the down payment? Typically, it's 3 to 5% of the purchase price, and it depends on your financial profile when we review it. The down payment, your down payment grows every month. So in addition to your starting 3 to 5%, every month, 20% of your payment that was quoted is savings. So when we quote out a payment, it's an all-inclusive payment. So let's just assume that the payment is $2,000. That includes $400 or 20% of $2,000, and that's savings. So if you started with 5% down, and let's say that number was $50,000, every month, $200 or 20% of your payment is added to that amount, and your down payment accumulates to form your final down payment at the end. And our payments are all inclusive. There's no requirement for you as a tenant within our rent-own program to pay anything outside of the rent-own payment except for your utilities and your content insurance. The investor looks after paying property taxes, the main building insurance, and again, your savings component is included in that payment. Again, utilities and content insurance are additional. So you start with 3 to 5% down, and it builds and grows as you're in the program. The future purchase price. Often people, when they think about rent to own, they believe that the price that they pay today is going to be the price that they buy the price that the investor pays today is going to be the price they pay for the house in the future, but that's not the case. We increase the purchase price by 2 to 4% a year. And if you're listening to the call, listening to the recording, you're thinking, wow, where I live, house prices are going up 20%. Absolutely. It's quite frequent now that you see areas where the appreciation rates are 20%. That may settle down now that we're moving away from COVID, perhaps a little bit, but 2 to 4% is what we use to increase the house price to determine the price that you pay in the future. The future mortgage, we already know what the future mortgage is going to be. Your purchase price is agreed to before we start. We know what your starting down payment was, and we know how much additional down payment you will accumulate during the term because it's 20% of your monthly payment. So we will qualify you for that exit mortgage to make sure it's affordable for you. And then we look at the rest of your profile, and that's what we concentrate on to make sure you're ready for the mortgage. And we do that through our Path to Home Ownership program, where we support you and give you access to all the tools and resources that you need to get ready for that future mortgage. So who can benefit from rent to own? Anyone has bruised credit and has 5% down. Families with good credit that have less than 5% down, are new to the country, self-employed, starting a new career, or have gone through a bankruptcy or consumer proposal. We can still work with that profile. So why rent to own? Well, there's two common paths to home ownership. One is to rent, save your money in your bank, under your bed, shoebox, and work on the things that are stopping you from getting a mortgage today. It could be credit related, could be job stability, it could be a number of factors. And you work on that on your own, right? That's one option. And then you buy the house when you're ready in the open market. That comes with some challenges. And if you watch what the markets have been doing over the last number of years, you might see that the ability to achieve home ownership in many markets is soon going to be unavailable for a lot of families, because if house prices keep climbing, it's just going to be out of reach, right? So buying in the open market, you're susceptible to market increases, where with rent to own, you're not. And we'll touch on that in a few moments. But if you look at rent to own, there's no change or increase in your monthly payment. The payments that you make every month include a savings portion. So there's no need for self-discipline or extra savings on your own when you're in the program. 20% of your payment is savings. Financial coaching, credit coaching is provided as part of your Path to Home Ownership program. Potential to build significant equity does exist with rent to own in many markets, and we'll touch on that in a second. And this is one of the most, the biggest economic value to rent to own, and we'll touch on that in a second. Remember, your future purchase price is capped, and your down payment can be as low as 3% of today's purchase price. So is rent to own for you? Well, if you feel that, hey, this sounds pretty interesting, right? Tell me a little bit more. What are some of the benefits? Here's one of the biggest ones. If you're looking at a property in the market today, and let's say the house is $600,000, and let's say that the market that you're looking to buy in, house prices are increasing by 12% a year. In 3 years on the open market, that $600,000 house is going to demand $843,000. That's the market value. That same $600,000 home today, if you were to move into that property under a rent to own program, and the appreciation used in the rent to own program was 3%, it means that the price you're going to pay for the house from the investor in 3 years is $656,000. But the market value for that same house in a market where appreciation rates are 12%, the difference is equity that you will inherit when you take over the ownership of the house at the end of the rent-to-own term. The difference in the price that you pay and what the house is actually worth in the market. And if you look at in this example here, right, the transaction price is $600,000 in 3 years, the value. Somebody buying that property and using rent-to-own to secure the mortgage using rent-to-own as a pathway to secure the mortgage in the future, when they buy the house, they will have equity of $187,000. The person who decides to wait, fix whatever their challenges are to get mortgage finance today and buy in the open market, they're going to pay $187,000 more for that house. Same home, exactly same home. The only difference is the market value is much higher than the price that you have locked in under a rent-to-own program. I hope you can see the value in that. What are the closing costs that I can expect? Moving day expense, home inspection. You want to make sure that the bones of the house are good. Any house that you buy, you want to make sure it's good. Independent legal advice. It's where you take your contracts that we put together and send them to your lawyer to get an opinion. Then we look at Path to Home Ownership. And with our Path to Home Ownership program, again, this is about giving you tools and resources to make sure that that you're going to be properly prepared for the mortgage in the future. So we start with a financial blueprint. You meet with our financial planner. We go over budgeting, insurance, your financial objectives, all kind of good stuff. And then we match you with other professionals as you go through the program to address the weaknesses in your financial profile. And for most people, that's related to credit building and credit coaching. With the path to home ownership, when you're approved to enter our program, we do ask for an initial deposit of $975, which is part of your total down payment. And when we get to the end of the rent-to-own term, the $975 is refunded back to you to use towards closing costs when you get your mortgage, whatever. It's money that comes back to you. Use it for your down payment, whatever you want. The $975 is refunded when we successfully graduate you from our rent-own program into a mortgage. Some frequently asked questions. How much do I need to put down? 3 to 5%. How is the future purchase price calculated? It's simply an appreciation rate that's applied to the starting purchase price times the number of years you're in the program. And again, typical rent-own programs run 2 to 5 years. Monthly option credits, that refers to the savings component of your total payment. 20% is our target. So that's often referred to as option credits, extra savings, down payment accumulator, many different terms people use when they talk about that component of rent to own. What happens if I cannot purchase at the end? If you get to the end and something happens, the market shifts a little bit, or you had a temporary bump in your employment or something, we'll extend the term that will allow you to recover from that. We'll do everything possible to protect your down payment and the extra savings that you've accumulated during the rent-to-own program. You are in charge of the maintenance of the house. So you're, if you want to paint, put down new flooring, change the kitchen, I would recommend you run that by the investor first. But it's about making the home yours. And in most cases, our tenants not only maintain the property, they improve it because it's pride of ownership and it's going to be their property in the future. The closing costs, the independent legal advice, the home inspection, and the $975 for the path to home ownership, which is actually refunded back to you at the end. There's no deed transfer tax. There's no legal fees for you to pay. Our investor takes care of that on the front end of the purchase. When you buy the house at the end, you'll have to pay the deed transfer tax and the closing costs with your lawyer at that time. The property tax and insurance are paid by the investor and they're included in your payment. So again, our payment is all inclusive. It includes a savings component. There's allowance in there for taxes and insurance. Anything over and above the payment would be your utilities and your content insurance. However, if you buy a condo, condo fees are applicable and they're over and above the payment amount. Who pays for the utilities? You do. Can I use my own realtor? Absolutely. And condo fees, we just touched on that. Condo fees are over and above payments. So that will be part of the quote and a part of the affordability assessment. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. Again, Merlando Bailey is very knowledgeable in rent-to-own, and you can rely on the information that Merlando provides to you. If HOS Financial can be helped, then it can help along the process. Please feel free to reach out to us as well. I want to say thank you for joining. Have a great day, and we'll talk with you soon.